Good morning, everyone. It is just about 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, and you know what that means? It's time for another Careers Clinic with Career Advice UK. I'm Brian, Career Advice UK. I live stream every day at 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, taking your questions on anything career related, such as CVs, cover letters, workplace situations, applying to personal statement, applying to UCAS, university application, career choices, job hunting, interviews, and more. So if you do have a question about anything related to careers, job hunting, interviewing, small business startup, put it down below. And I will pick it up on a first come and first served basis. I do find with many of them, hey Aaron, good to see you. I do find with a lot of people who do ask, they will come back later and tell me that they've had a great success with the tips. So if you do have a question, hey Edwin and Tick Tribe, good to see you both. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down and I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis. If you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. And if you do feel so inclined, please thank us, as it does help me to know what resonates with people, and it helps me to steer the conversation and helps me to plan for future content. So if you have been sending off CVs without a response, let me know. Because if you have been sending off CVs without a response, put it down in the comments and let me know and let's work through what's going on, because it does. Hey Reese, how are you doing? Because it does mean there's something going on, and sometimes it's easy to work through in a quick. Hey, what's your big decision? What's your big decision, Reese? So are you going to okay. No, I understand that. Because I know you got rejected. So have you start looking for your own job then? Have you started job hunting? And how's that going for you? Is it difficult? Or are you finding that with all of your experience that you're getting a lot of interviews and so they're giving you tests. That's a bit odd. Usually I don't. When I apply for jobs, I don't get tests. If I do, it's just something really simple like analyze this contract. No, numeracy isn't that hard. I find those are relatively easy. So that's interesting that they're giving you tests. Hey, Borrow and TikTok. So if you're just joining, having a little bit of a conversation here with a regular here who's kind of been through. It can be. Hey, Helen, thank you for the likes. It is a little bit critical thinking, because I know with my experience when I do my applications for contract management, I do get contracts where they'll send me contracts they analyze and say how would I respond and what would I recommend. Well, thank you. So if you do like the feed, please share, please like, and please follow. Um, it is, um, I think, the critical thinking I always struggle with. It's like, for me, it's the contract end of things. I don't get. I find it interesting that they're requiring you testing. Hey, thank you for joining me. Oh, thank you, Gabrielle, for the roles. Thank you. So yes, if you're just joining, having a little bit of a chat here with somebody who joins on a regular basis, and they've kind of been taking a little bit of a journey, deciding to start their own business or start applying. Yeah, it's to pursue a different career. But I always think with testing, the problem with testing is there's biases built into it. Hey, thank you, Gabriel, for the share. Thank you so much. There is biases built in, and it doesn't always measure what you expect it to measure. And I think sometimes people get too wrapped up on testing. Biases, because when you write a test, it is always going to have some type of bias. Is it going to measure what it's supposed to? Is it going to give you the results that you want? So if you are, for example, doing an employment test, and you want to test somebody on numerical skills, because let's say it's a financial job, is that test going to then predict that that person is going to be, hey, accountant fountain Sandra, is that test, well, thank you for the rose, Gabrielle, very nice, thank you, is that test going to then predict that that person will be able to successfully perform that job? And again, I don't think so, because there's a lot more that goes into it than just saying a test. So I think then what it does, it then starts to think and make people think, oh, this person will be just perfect because they scored so well on this test, so they're going to be the best fit for it. But when you put them into the role, you may just find they just go belly up. Because why? Because certain people, when you do a test, certain people, like myself, will test well because relax, very good at numeracy. I've done contract management for years. Whereas somebody who gets a bit nervous, who may be even better, who gets nervous and just can't think and gets anxious, well, they score less. It's not because that the test was any harder. It's because they get test anxiety. And so what happens then is they get test anxiety, they score less, so they don't get the job. Even though they may have been a better fit, that test has created a bit of a bias, because now that person has not done as well, and maybe because they go into the interview now feeling kind of a bit frustrated from the test, they don't interview as well, and all of a sudden they don't get the test. They don't get the job because of anxiety, or again, when you do a test, from another bias standpoint, is the instructions, are the instructions clear? Do the people have the same idea of what you're trying to convey to them to do the test? Is the test, do you give enough time? Is that, are you going to start to make people rush? And again, I have a really bad, I guess, I don't believe testing in and of itself for a job is a fair way to select candidates. I think there is certain biases that go into it. And I think it creates an impression. And again, when we talk about testing, we in the UK we talk about, let's say, data protection. Data protection says you can't make automated decisions. There has to be, a human oversight. So you can't just rely on automation. But if you're doing testing, and you still make that decision, you still have that human oversight into it. It's really hard to make that decision about hiring if you have somebody who scores low in the interview, who scores low on the testing, but has a really strong CV. And so does that individual who doesn't, who may have not performed well, and not get the offer, would have been a better candidate had that testing not been a part of it. So again, it's that kind of snowball effect. You do the test, they don't do well because they have bit test anxiety. When they do don't do well, it starts to kind of put them into a bit of a downward spiral where they start thinking, I really don't have much of a chance. So they don't really try it, interview poorly. And so ultimately they don't get that job versus somebody who does. And I think testing really doesn't, because testing is one of these, when you think about a test, what a test is, it is a snapshot in time. It is a snapshot in time that just shows what your skills and abilities are at that moment. And again, a lot of things that can influence it. Again, like illness, temperature of the room, internet connection, if it's, done remotely, internet connection, internet speed. And it is just so much that really can throw a test off, that really, I really struggle with testing. For me, when it comes to recruitment and hiring, my own feeling is testing doesn't really have a role. I think it's a lot on reviewing the CV, looking at their cover letter, the interview, what have they done, how have they been able to evidence what they have been able to do. And I think that speaks a lot more than a test, because in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that any job you can teach. So if you come in, let's say, apply for a finance job and you have a degree in music, but you want to do finance and you have good numerical skills. All right. So if you take a test, you show that you have good numeracy, and that test is more or less a test to see if you have the sufficient level of numeracy to be able to be trained. I don't have a problem with that, because it says, at least then you're taking a look, because if you're going to spend literally thousands of pounds or tens of thousands of pounds to really develop someone, you need to know that they have at least the skills to do it. And so if you do a numeracy test to test them to see if they have, they meet the minimum skills, so that you can train them. That's one thing. If it's an offer, if you make the offer that they have the minimal skills, numeracy skills to do it, that's one thing. Yes, I think, yeah, I think it is. I've actually on a few occasions declined interviews on the basis of testing. I've actually said to people interviewing that I think it's an unfair, discriminatory test, especially when it is a test that I don't see the point to. And I have declined tests. I have declined interviews on that basis. Ah, no, well, good night. Thank you for the question, stopping by. Hope to see you back. What you're doing, take a look at my name and that will answer your question. So, oh, great. I would love to hear what happens. It is a very interesting journey you're on. It is a great journey. It's an interesting one. So, if you're just joining and you do like the feed, please, please like, thank you so far for all the likes that I've got. That's really nice and really great. And also, too, if you do feel inclined, please send gifts because it, like I said, really helps me to know what people like, what's really resonating, and it helps me to plan my content. And like I say, you don't need to send gifts, but it really does help. And two, if if you want, please share, and please follow. And if you do stop by on occasion and you want a bit of benefit, there's two ways you can get benefit from joining my lives. One is a little 1 point heart me. That 1 point heart me gives you a bit of priority when you do join, and also too, it does. It also does. It also gives you the ability to get priority when you do join. Likewise, I do offer subscription. I don't offer tiered subscription. I just offer one with a lot of benefits and also with a lot of benefits for you. So it's just one price, and you do get a lot of benefits from it. So it is one potential for you to look at, and so it do also you do also get with it priority when I do my guest spots. And so if it is something that you are interested in, I would say take a look. It's found really easy by hopping down and taking a look at my profile. Look downwards and you will see subscription. And with the subscription, it is, like I say, you do get, there's just one tier and you get a lot of benefit from that. So if you have any questions, regarding, if you have any questions regarding careers such as CVs, cover letters, please feel free to drop it down below, and I will pick it up. If you have an interview today and need a few tips, please put your question down below. So if you are interviewing today and you do have a question, please feel free, about the interview, like how to answer questions or what is the right etiquette for a Teams interview, how to do a Zoom interview, one-sided interview, all those, how do you quickly prepare, or how do you do a real quick crash course on preparing for an interview, please let me know, and I will, give you a few quick tips on interviewing. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put it down. I do pick up questions on a first come, first served basis. And it will, it is, a first come, first served basis. So if you have a question, if you do have a question, anything, because I've gone through a lot of questions recently regarding, regarding CVs and cover letters, and CVs, cover letters, talking about interviews, and I've had in the past, but I haven't recently. Did a lot about talking about small business startup in the UK. And again, it is one of these things, if you're looking to really start up, a business, and you have some UK business, you have some questions, always, feel free, always feel free to put it down. And I do pick up questions. So if you do have a question, please let it down. Please put it down. Because I think, with the last viewer that came in, and it is a very interesting kind of conversation with them. And it is, I would say, this individual has been on and really kind of talked about a bit of a journey. They've gone through, owning a business and then found out it wasn't working out. And so they've looked at starting another business that they wanted to do, and found that the like what usually happens a lot of times is the banks rejected the loan application, so they had to basically restart again and have to make that decision. Did they pursue it, or do they look at working? And so now they're at that point of deciding to look to work. And so really, what that really, I think, really does show to us is that nobody really follows the same path, the same career path, the same career journey as anyone else. Like in my situation, started working, on a permanent basis. Hey, Vida, how are you? Had the opportunity to move into more of a kind of a contractor type of role. And so I've been doing kind of the contractor fixed term ones now for about the last 6 years. And glad to hear it, Vida. So I've heard, so it's been for like the last 6 years. So it's one of these things. Each of us takes our own kind of path. And it is, and this is really what the kind of purpose of the live streams are. It's to help people on their paths, to kind of help them to clarify where they're heading, and what are their goals, what are their objectives, what is it that they're trying to accomplish, achieve. Because again, let's be realistic, when we are, 18, we're very kind of naive. So between the ages of 18 and about 67, a big chunk of our lives, it is spent working. It is spent working. It is spent, and it is, something, if you don't get it right, it is something that can be very stressful. Hey, Youssef. Can be very stressful and can be very hard, and can have a massive impact on your mental health and mental well-being. So it's always important to really look out and take care of yourself. And so if you do have a question, about anything, workplace situations, thinking about a career change or changing jobs, again, feel free. Put it down. More than happy. Hey, Jared, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So again, if you do find it, um, you do have that kind of career path or career journey. Hi Izzy, and you're kind of at that crossroads, and you want to find out. Feel free to ask. And so if you do have, or if you are thinking about starting up your own UK business, put it. So if you are thinking about starting your own UK business, put it down below. More than happy to kind of pick it up for you and talk you through it. I do get a lot of questions. I have, not for a while, but the last couple of weeks up to the run up to Christmas, had a lot of people just come in and just starting to ask about business startups, and I don't know if it is just because it was kind of the holidays, and they're kind of just thinking, maybe I really need to look at something else and kind of have a reflection on the year end and just thinking, what do I need to do? Or is it just a, or is it just more than just that? And people are really wanting to take a look and start to look at it, because there is a lot of support out there. And I think it is, a lot of support out there for you to start up a UK small business. Hey, Steve Donaldson, good to see you. So again, if you are, thinking about it, put it down. If if you are sending out literally hundreds of CVs and getting interviews, put it into the comments, because hey Jim Ferguson, good to see you again. So if you are if you are sending out literally hundreds of CVs and getting no interviews, put it down. Like I said, there is a reason why that's happening. There is a reason to it, and sometimes it can be really quick fix in the a very quick fix. That can be done in a question answer forum. Sometimes it's a bit more involved. So if you are looking for a bit of a tip, a bit of advice, regarding it, put it down below. Happy to pick it up and kind of talk you a little bit through it. If need be, we can always arrange something outside. Have a quick chat, direct message or something, and just kind of go through it. Because there is, if you are literally sending out hundreds of CVs and you're not getting any response, there is a reason, and it's more than it's a highly competitive UK market, which it is right now. But there is a bit more going on. And I think what we really need is, have a quick chat to see what's going on and how we can get that fixed for you, so you can start getting interviews and getting that job you want. Because if you do ask questions, what it does do for you, it does start to get you, oops, lost my earbud. Oh, great. So what it does start getting for you is, by asking, you get your issue resolved. And it also, too, get your issue resolved. And it also, it gets you your issue resolved, and it also, helps others to let them know, to get their question answered, and helps them to ask. So again, if you do have a question, feel free to put it down. if you are. Um, the pink one, that my spouse bought that one. Um, just trying to remember, it's a couple years old. Um, I'm just trying to think. I think it'd be about 30 pounds. Um, it is Careers Clinic. What does that mean? Good question, Lumen. What it means is you bring in it's a question and answer forum, anything career related. So again, it covers the whole kind of gamut. And I can give you a few examples. Anything kind of like CV related, cover letter, job interview, job hunting, UK small business startups, applications to university, writing your personal statement, workplace issues, anything pretty much career related. I do get a lot of questions on writing CVs, structuring CVs, how to edit CVs, what to put on CVs. Interviews, I do get a lot of questions on. So what did you do in Australia? Because station hand work. Okay, just for I think I know what you mean by station hand work. Just if you can just explain really quickly, what is station hand work? Because I know TikTok doesn't give you a lot. 150 characters is not always a lot to do. That's what I thought. Yeah, it's really hard. I think in the UK it is not. There's not a lot of opportunity to do that. I know, like in the US, there was. I know in the U.S., especially the West, especially South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, and parts of Kansas, especially, and also like Colorado is. Hey, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for the follow. Those states, really, there's a lot of very wide open area and very big, huge cattle. And again, Texas, you'd probably see that too. It is. You would just need to be able to qualify for a work visa. And as long as you're able to qualify for the work visa, you would be able to enter the U.S. The work visa can be in the U.S., very kind of, from what I understand, a very long and daunting process. It can be. Because it is, like I said, it's really kind of the West. So if you really kind of look at the Western, kind of the Western states like Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, probably. Any tips? Let's see. What did you ask? Any tips for what, Alicia? So yeah. Okay, I see now. Yeah, I think I think if you're looking, oh well, thank you, Jody, for the heart me. Thank you. If you are really looking, I think what you really need to start applying. You can go onto the internet. You can go on. There's a lot of websites like Indeed, Reed, Hayes, Adecco, Blue Arrow, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. are good sites. Just start looking at organizations in your town, businesses in your town. Look under careers or work for us or join us type of page. Hey, thank you, Luminosity, for the like. Just start looking there and just start applying. Um, and there is CV Library is probably another good one to look at. And just start putting your CV on and start applying. Um, I think it is going to be, I think you're going to find that if you probably don't start applying or start looking for a job or start looking at maybe going to college or university, parents may start to really start kind of put the pressure on you to either find something or to and so you may start finding you start to get a lot of pressure to do it. And I would say to you, start to take a look. Also to get in contact with Job Center. They may have some training programs and support programs. I know you're kind of in the area where the government is looking to help people to get into jobs. So again, it may be contact Job Center to see what programs is available for you to look and to find for jobs. So I would say to start to take a look at those because they can and do help. And again, yeah, it is pretty much at 18, pretty much any type of job. Again, if you're looking at for areas that may be really helpful to hire you, the ones that tend to take younger people tend to be hospitality and hospitality, retail, food service, restaurant, manufacturing. Yeah, it is. It's really scared. But we all have to, and it is not always the easiest to do. I know I've been there. It's not really an easy time because there's a lot of choices, but also you start to get a lot of responsibility put onto you. So for you, Luminosity, I would say start to look. If you're looking in the U.S., like I said, take a look at, and I've said this before with others who kind of looked at the U.S. for work. There is a slew of U.S. immigration, U.S. attorneys in London. And get in contact with them to find out what is kind of the work visa situation and what type of jobs would qualify because, again, immigration is something that changes a lot and it's really hard to give really any type of tips or advice on it because it changes so quickly. So I would say talk to them about it and see what's available, especially in and what could you qualify. No, you can just do it online. You don't have to go into London. I've had a few questions for them, and you just contact them online. Just look for U.S. attorneys in London. They have an email address and stuff. I think for growing up, it just like I said, and it looks if it is what you're doing, ranch hand and stuff, if it is something that would qualify for a work visa, there is, like I said, a lot of opportunity, especially when you go into the West, and the real big ranches. So I think with growing up, I think it's a good question, and I've been there before, and I really had a hard time making that transition in all honesty. But you do get on to the other end, and things do change and work out well for you. It is just getting through that. I think for me, what I would say is everyone really just kind of grows up in their own time, and it's going to take you a long time. Um, ah, that's interesting, Alejo. Um, so what I would say is to grow up is, it's begin to kind of accept it, and it's not easy to accept it, and there's a lot of responsibilities and stuff. So I would just say, as people do ask you to do things, don't try to kick the can down the road and try to avoid it. Just do the best that you can, and face it head on, and think about yourself. I know parents will say, well, yeah, you got to do it this way. Um, you have to do it this way, or this way. But remember, you're 18. You can make your own decisions. You don't have to do what others tell you. You can make your own decisions. So you just have to remember that. Um, for what I changed in my life, if I had to start over, I probably would say study more. Um, because I've was able to get work my way to a master's. Almost got my doctorate, but my doctorate application was rejected. Um, and I think, to me, had I taken my education a bit more seriously. Well, thank you, Lumen Aussie, for the roses. Thank you. Um, oh, thank you for the roses. Um, what I would say to you is, you know, if I had to do it over, I probably would focus more on the educational end of things, um, because I think, for me, had I really kind of focused a bit more on the education, uh, I think I would have had a very much different life. And I think it would probably have been, for me at least, a bit easier, because um, then I would have, I think I would have had a lot of opportunities that would have opened up for me, had I spent more time on education. I think a lot more opportunities would have opened, and I think um, probably I would have, um, probably would have had my PhD and having a very different type of life. But again, I'm quite happy with the way it worked out. But I think if it was the one thing, I would have spent more time on education, because I think it would have opened up more opportunities, and ultimately, um, more opportunities for me. And I think that's where, oh yeah, you're talking, if you look, especially like Colorado, parts of Texas, western South Dakota, western Nebraska, Montana, you're talking ranches with, tens of thousands, with literally thousands of cattle. It's all very, the western part of the U.S., kind of that area, western South Dakota, western North Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and then up to like Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. You have very vast expansions of wide open spaces with very, very large cattle ranches on very large lands. Very similar to Australia in many ways. The U.S. and Australia, kind of geographically, there's certain similarities to them. Um, and so when you look at the U.S., for example, and you look at that area, that really kind of western area, kind of like right around the Rockies and near Rocky area, Rocky Mountain area. Um, what you'll start to see is, if you kind of look at that area, um, yeah, and you do get that. So if you kind of look at that area, um, the way they kind of do it is, if you take a look on a map of the U.S., look at the Missouri River as it starts out of Montana, and it kind of heads down from North Dakota into South Dakota, and then starts making its southeast journey to St. Louis. When you take that line as it heads down south and kind of just keep on going south to the tip of Texas, and then trace it to, then kind of follow the Rio Grande and stuff, and follow the mountains up the Rockies to that, what is it? What would it be? Leeward end of the Rockies, the leading edge of the Rockies. That whole area is very. You would probably, it would depend on the state that you're working. But most states will give you a grace period to convert your UK to US license. But it would be dependent on the state. Each state has their own rules. You would most likely probably have to convert, but again, it depends on their state laws, because that's a state law, not a federal law, so it's not universal. But most likely, you would have to convert it to a U.S., and it's not that hard. U.S. license is not that hard, because U.S. and U.K. have very similar, though not identical, driving laws. So it would be very easy to pick up on the rules of the road. And then it would be, I think, just having to do a bit of driving to get your test. It's not like the UK where you have to book months in advance. You can, yeah, it was easy. It's basically, probably, if you've driven in Australia, the US, US is probably very similar to Australia. Driving on the other side of the road. US roads are not as windy as they are in the UK. They're more straight in, straight on, especially when you hit the west. It is very kind of like straight roads. And so, again, it is, if you're used to Australia, if it is the other side of the road, yeah, so it is the left side. So it is just kind of getting yourself used to driving on the other side of the road. And once you can do that, it is relatively easy to do. It is, the rules are very similar to the UK. And so I think you would be, it'd be very relatively easy, and usually, so I would say to you, it is, would be relatively easy. Just, you would have to look at the state laws, how long you had on your UK license before you had to convert, but it is relatively, it should be relatively easy to do. So yeah, so if you've driven in, Australia too, I think the rules are also the rules are again similar. So I think if you can pick those up, it shouldn't be that difficult. So yeah, so take a look. Like I said, there are a few U.S. immigration. They do like immigration business in London. All you just have to do is just do a quick search, like on TikTok, or do an internet search, and you'll be able to easily find them, and they can give you some tips and advice on the U.S. immigration, and some of the challenges and stuff that you may face with it, because it can be a bit of a challenge. For you, but it is what it is. It is. I think it is relatively straightforward. I don't think it would be, if you don't have anything in your past that would bar you. I don't think it would be that difficult. So if you're just joining, it has been a good kind of Yeah, yeah, you need to be happy, but happy is really hard to define, and nobody's happy all the time. Um, Nobody will be happy all the time. It's just knowing how to kind of get through the more difficult times. And as you get older, you will start to face a lot more difficult times. And part of it is going to be unavoidable. Part of it, yes, no problem. Glad that you stopped by and hope to see you back again. Yeah, UK 436. It's also UK here. So, really good to see you and thank you. Um, so yeah, it is, Alicia. It is really hard sometimes. Um, to be happy all the time. You won't be happy all the time. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Um, it is it is something, like with life, and it's sometimes you can prevent some of the things by happening by kind of thinking it through, um, and making the decisions. But again, sometimes, when you do make decisions, sometimes you're just, doing it just to kind of, for lack of a better word, kick the can down the road to avoid the inevitable. And if you do that, ah, interesting. So yeah, Brad, the main thing is, always, it's not going to be easy. Um, it's not going to be always easy. Life isn't easy. Hey, thank you for the likes, Bog. Um, it is not going to be easy for you, and it's not. I get up early. I don't mind it. For me, but what I would just say to you is really, Brad, is to really, just realize that you're not going to be happy all the time. Um, because nobody is. And if you do take the time to really kind of think it through and try to do things to maybe prevent things from happening, um, it is. It is really about being up. When I was younger, I was always up at night. And a lot of times I wouldn't go to bed, be up all night, and go to bed like at 4, or midnight. I'd rarely go to bed before 10 when I was younger. But then, as you get older, um, things change as you start kind of working the daily 9 to 5 grind. And all of a sudden, you're going to bed earlier. Um, you're kind of hanging around in your pajamas. Um, if you work remotely, you may have like a Zoom top on and wearing your bunny slippers and pajama bottoms, um, because you want to be more comfortable. Um, so it is. I think things do change, and you do have to. Um, it does happen. You do grow up. But again, it's always remembered that you're 18 now, and you do have a right to make your own decisions. And you do have the right to make your own decisions regardless of what others may think or want. And so, you do need to think about what's best for you. And the kind of the fun, and what's always hard, I think, was for me when I was younger, is kind of making that transition from, just going to school and kind of having a carefree life to taking on those types of responsibilities and expectations and start planning for your future and thinking about your future and what do you want for yourself and where do you see yourself being. Um, hey, Selah. Good to see you. So I think it becomes that and it is kind of making that transition. Hey, Milka, from making that transition from making that transition from being a child to a responsible adult, and and just kind of beginning just to grow up, um, and taking on that kind of adult responsibility. Because I do remember when I was younger, it was really hard to believe, that I was an adult now. I had adult responsibilities, and I really just wanted, I think, was just to have a bit more fun before I kind of grew up. And I think you do just need to do it slowly. And I think my own opinion would be, if you want to do it a bit slower, then maybe start to look at doing, either college or university. Because if you're going to be forced to grow up fast, I do think it is, if you do wind up in an apprenticeship or work, I think you would be kind of forced to do a bit more growing up faster than what you have to, because you are working and people will have adult expectations on you. But if you do go to university or college, you do get that little bit of that life. You do get a little bit of a buffer zone where you can slowly begin to grow up, and become an adult and decide what you want to do and think about where do you want to go with your future and what do you want for your future. I think that's, for me, I think like plumbing and roofing are very good. I think are very good careers, and I think it would probably have got you, something, it would be a good paying job. I think you would be, you know, set for a while with that. I think if you were interested, I would say to take a look and see if you can. Oh, thank you, Numar, for the rose. Thank you so much. I think for me, I would say take a look at going back if you want. Maybe if it's not. Oh, well, thank you for the rose. Oh, thank you, Numar. Um, I would say, if college is, in your, consideration. Hey, thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you. Um, I would say if it is there for you, I would say take a look at going back and seeing if you can return to college. Um, oh, I would really say take a look at returning to college, because it will give you a little bit of that buffer you want. It will give you that kind of buffer that you want to be able to grow up slowly. Or if you can, take a look at university. University will have different requirements. Different requirements for you. It would be, university will, require, time, but again, university also does allow you to have a bit of fun and still be kind of yourself and have a bit of fun, as you prepare for your life after university. It does open it up for you. So I would say, really just have a bit of a think about it and take a look at, the best way to do it. Because I think if you do kind of go into the world of work and you want, I think that is something really kind of out of my realm, Ollie. I think if you have anger issues, if you're going to have anger issues, I think you really do need to see someone about it to get the help, because it is not really good, and it is anger issues can lead to very kind of destructive path that puts you, in a very difficult position. So I would always say look for somebody that can help, professionals that can help you. Well, that's good. Have a good think. Well, good. It may just need that little bit of grounding. Hey, Torin. Um, so it may be just needed a little bit of, just somebody to, hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Torin? So I'm beginning to wind down here. So I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for the gifts, the likes, the shares, the follows. It's been a really good day. And it's been really kind of a good, productive day with a lot of questions. And talked about how to grow up as a teenager, and looking to balancing work versus university or back to college, applying for jobs at the age of 18. Talked about update from a previous individual about their journey versus business startup versus going back to work and looking for a job on their own. And it is all this. And so it's been, I think, a very good day for us all. And it's been really, well, thank you. Well, thank you for that, Brad. I appreciate that. So what I'm going to say is, remember, I'll be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, and I look forward to seeing you back. Thank you all. And if you have, I got a quick second, Torrin. If you have a quick question, I can quickly pick it up. I can easily pick something quickly up if there is a quick question, because I don't want you to take off if you have a question. Otherwise, okay. Thank you for the follow. Okay, no problem. Night, Brad. See you all. Bye.